Greetings and welcome. I'm going to turn it over to our moderator, Tracy L. Bay.
Hello, and welcome to our second podcast of What Needs to Be Done Today, also known as WNTBD Today Network. This podcast is sponsored by the MAAT American Tribal Nation, and we want to welcome in and give honor, as always, thanks and love to our ancestors and all of you who've joined us today via Zoom and YouTube. I'm super grateful for our wonderful podcast team who've joined us today. Anita Wills, Malo and Roja Bell Bay, our chief of the MAAT Tribal Nation, Carmela Mitchell Bay in her absence, and Shatika Killebrew Bay, who is also our podcast team coordinator and our wonderful guest speaker again for the Matriarch Speaks Part 2 on who is and the roles of the matriarch. Just a reminder, after our speaker, we will have an open discussion. You can type any questions or comments in the YouTube chat, the Zoom chat. You can raise your hand via the Zoom. And we do ask if you are on the phone, just please raise your, you can, if you're on the phone, you can press *9 to raise your hand, *9 to lower it. If you are on the computer, if you can mute just so that we don't have any background noise while the speaker is going forward, you can press *6 on your phone to mute the Zoom. All right. Shatika Killebrew Bay, I did see her on and I think she did go off. Is she back on?
Yes, she's on.
Yeah, I'm
All
here, Tracy.
right. Okay, perfect. All right. And just so you at the end of this discussion, at the end after the, the speaker is done, excuse me, we will have our open discussion and you can type any questions or comments in the YouTube chat, Zoom chat. You can also again raise your hand, and so we'll definitely love to hear from you. Anything you want to share, any questions or comments that you would like to ask or to send onto the floor. We are definitely here. And so, the Shatika, if you are ready, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Tracy. I appreciate you. Peace and love, everyone. I am Shatika Killebrew, and I'm grateful to be here to have this opportunity to share amongst each other about different issues, pressing issues, and then also the roles of a matriarch. I think it's vitally important that this is something that we openly discuss regularly amongst each other because it gives us the opportunity to set a precedent. And in that case, we would be able to change the trajectory of our children's future. Um, Today, like Tracy said, we're going to do a part 2 of the roles of the matriarch. And we want to discuss and further different attributes and traits that are required in order to be or assimilate in the role of a matriarch. And I think that it's vitally important that we discuss these topics because, again, like I said, creating a precedent changes the trajectory of our children's future. And as we can all see now, there's no regular status or regular, I would say, role or regular, I can't even think of a word for it at the moment, but a regular status, like I said, of what mothers need and what they have in order to give to their children. Last week, I said that there was no universal book on parenting, and though I wish there was, it's a reality that there isn't. And in doing this, I believe that we can create that because there's no difference of a child. Every child is the same, though they may have different spirits, but the operations of children are the same. And if we have the same process of operating with them and teaching them and guiding them, then we can ultimately produce children that have a certain character that gives them, as Darwin's theory is, the capacity to raise children that are able to succeed, and then also their children to raise children that are able to see survival of the fittest. And so last week I spoke on a matriarch needs to be able to nurture, guide, and support. But in those three categories, there's so many different traits that are needed that helps those areas be better fulfilled by a mother. And so I wrote a couple of traits down, and I won't talk on each of them too long, but I definitely just wanted to share these because I think that through my observation, these are traits that I've had to readapt. We had them when we were children, and then we have life happens to us. discourse in relationships, neglect from our own parents, abandonment, and things of that nature. And it creates these barriers and blockages where we're not really able to step up as a mother or as a matriarch and truly give our children what we need because we're lacking in being that genuine, authentic self due to the traumas. And so, I start this off. The first two are patience and empathy. And definitely we know patience and empathy is vitally important because if we did not have patience, we could not get the results. It takes patience in order to create the consistency, in order to get the results of the character of the child. And then also we have empathy. Empathy is necessary because if we have a circumstance where our child is trying to relay to us their feelings and their needs, and we're unwilling to empathize enough to understand from their perspective, how can we fulfill that need? Have next adaptability and flexibility. And that's like a major aspect because children change, we change, and this is one of the realities of life. Through our changing, we have to be flexible and adaptable because if we're not, then as things change, we're so rigid and so fixated on what our desires are, our way of moving, that we don't even um, have the capacity to shift when it is time. And so, adaptability and flexibility is a definite necessity. We have consistency and then reliability, and those are vital. Everything that we do as a parent creates the precedent for the child when it comes to them knowing consequences and things of that nature. But if we're not consistent, they don't learn themselves enough to know when they go into the world there are going to be certain results. And because of that, we end up dealing with so many issues with these children nowadays that they constantly do things that I call it spiraling. And I've saw it throughout my whole life, people cycling and repeating the same things, and it's actually really insanity, repeating the same thing and expecting a different result. But we have children out here now that know that the actions that they're taking are putting them in certain positions that is harmful for them. And instead of them seeing that and rectifying their behavior to get a better result, they continue that path. And like I said, it's a spiral, it's a repetitious cycle that they're unable to really break themselves from. And it starts with us. And so then unconditional love is definitely a necessity as a matriarch. Like we should have within us the capacity to love our child no matter what their issues are, no matter how their character is. And in that, that gives them the strength and the ability to believe in themselves, to trust themselves, to follow through for self. But if we don't have unconditional love, then there goes the neglect in a way, and the child is looking for that love because that is the first love that we have to have. When we get that love from our mother, then we're able, or our father as well, then we're able to walk into the world with the heart of love for others. But if we don't have that as a basis in our upbringing, how can we have that as an operational capacity when we step into the world? The next trait would be effective communication. And it's vital, the fact that we have to be able to relay appropriately to our children what they need. And if we cannot communicate as a parent, we create young individuals that are not able to communicate either. And then they become young adults. And then they don't have the capacity and they're limited. And it becomes a spiral yet again. Everything starts with the mother, and that's the reality of it. And so if we don't have the capacity to express our feelings, express our discourse, and then also be willing and able to allow them to express their reasoning behind their actions, then we can never get any resolve. The next traits will be selflessness and sacrifice, which I spoke on last week. And as a parent, you do have to be selfless. You cannot be so wrapped up in yourself to the extent that you don't provide for your child what their need is because you're trying to meet your own need. And that happens a lot now, especially with people who have had children in a state of trauma. They have not healed their childhood traumas, and now they're carrying them along, raising children, and they don't have the capacity to put themselves to the side because because they're so wrapped up in their hurt. And that's why it's vitally important before dating and raising children that you heal. If you don't heal, if you don't work on yourself, how can you be an effective individual in their lives? And it's love and children and having children and motherhood and matriarchhood is not just about, oh, I want people to love me. It's about being able to give that in return. And so, yes, you have to be selfless and then also have a healthy balance because you have to take care of yourself as well. But there is an appropriate manner in which you do that. And hopefully with what we're creating and curating here, we can create a healthy environment where there is a support system. And that way individuals are not so overwhelmed to where they become selfish instead of selfless. And so we have encouragement and support, which are vital, you know. I'm watching this Uber video. I watch it every day. It's a commercial and it touches my heart, but I just hate that it's modern day advertisement. But they always say all you need to do is show up. Showing up means everything. And it does. It means so much. Even when a child's not the greatest in the capacity of whatever they're doing, when you support them and you encourage them, they believe and have more faith in themselves. But it's challenged if we're not giving it to them. If we're not the ones that's telling them, hey, you're great, you're beautiful, you're this, you're that. If we're not speaking and pouring those things into them, where does it come from? And it does not come from self. It does not. Our consciousness does not come from self. I've studied throughout my whole life and realized that our consciousness is a compilation of the people that come before us that have continuously given us certain things that allow us to be, you know, our greatest potential and create that thought that we constantly hear when we're chastising ourselves or when we're uplifting ourselves. And so we become our child's first conscious. We're the one that either builds them up or tear them down. And so encouragement and support is important. If you're the type of parent that you're always lashing out and you're this and you're just like your father and you mess up this way, you're curating a negative thought in the child's mind to where they have no belief in themselves. And so it's vitally important that we speak positivity into our children. We speak anointment over our children. We speak power into our children rather than tearing them down. One that I find funny, but is on the list, is a sense of humor. It's vitally important to have a sense of humor. I find when I'm looking at situations that my children have done things and it's disappointing to me, if I shift my perspective and find the humor in it, if I shift my perspective and find the beauty in it, it's so much easier to rectify the situation. And it's been numerous times. My children, my boys, I have two boys, they could be in there fighting. And though to me it's fighting, them, they're having fun. And they're, you know, going back and forth with each other. And I'm like, too much noise, calm down. And I have to shift and realize this is them bonding. It may not be what I want them to be bonding like, but this is them bonding. So I shift my perspective immediately and I find the joy in them being able to love each other, even though to me it can be a little toxic, but they're boys, so I have to understand it. You know, they're not girls. I'm not expecting them to be, oh, come here, let me braid your hair. So for them, it's who's the strongest? Come on. And I have to shift my perspective, and it goes to the sense of humor. And I find humor in even if my grandbaby's over and she writes on the wall, just the fact that she's exploring, she's growing. And I realized that every experience from their perspective is nothing but bliss and joy. And we have to learn to enjoy that because at one point in time, we were those same individuals. The next trait is a strong moral compass and which is vitally important. I feel like if you don't have a strong moral compass, you cannot actually fulfill any of the other traits. I think the moral compass is what encourages the selflessness. The moral compass is what encourages the encouragement and support. It's the basis of the unconditional love. And so the moral compass is so important. If we don't have a moral compass and our children watch us just go whichever way we decide to go, fulfilling ourselves in whichever temporary feeling we can, they become them same individuals. They become the ones that mimic us. They are our mirrors. They reflect everything we do. Mother is the first role model. Father is there, he's the second. But everything that a mother does, a child will mimic. And then so far with anybody around, any adult, if a child is around an adult, they are allured to certain behaviors, they mimic those behaviors easily. And so when we have our character together, we're able to reflect in them something that they are able to carry into the world that is unmovable, it's unsurmountable or insurmountable. Trustworthiness. It's so vitally important as a mother, as a matriarch, to have trustworthiness with your children and again with your spouse. These traits are not just for children, but my focus is for children because we are already damaged. Honestly, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it, but we are healing. And in our state of healing, we should make sure that they are not damaged. We should make sure that they are not limited, that they have the fullest capacity to be their highest potential. And after we give them what they need, then as we're giving them that, we can still work on ourselves on the side. But we cannot focus on ourselves if we've already brought them into the world in this traumatic state. And so that's why, again, it's so vitally important that we teach our children not to be so in a rush to be grown and you're out here and you're doing things that produce children because mentally and spiritually we're not ready, and it takes having a certain intellect before you have children. And so in order to not hinder them, we should take our time and learn ourselves first, and then therefore we can heal the nation in order to continue to reproduce survival of the fittest children. Self-discipline, and I swear this one is the must, because if you don't have self-discipline, you cannot have consistency. And without consistency, you cannot produce the character in the child that you desire. And I find it so funny because that's one of the areas that I had to work on within this last 2 years. And I didn't realize that I was lacking in that, but I had become selfish and I did not have self-discipline to give them the consistency. And I was not reaping the rewards of the behavior through them. But through these last 2 years, I've been shifting my process of being committed and showing up committed and holding them accountable, and now I see results. I see them, okay, mama, I'm finna wash the dishes, or mama, I already cleaned the bathroom, or yeah, mama, I fed the dog already, or mama, I watered the plants. And now they're showing up for themselves. And I don't have to stand over them and say, you gotta do, you need to be. And so that's the beauty of it. But the final trait is resilience. And I find it so ironic that Sister Carmela used resilience as the word of the week last week. And I found it, interesting, the definition, the ability to return back to who we are after being in a chaotic or turmoil state. Bouncing back is basically what it is. And that's what we have to have. Things are going to happen. Things are going to transpire. You can't always control everything. But what you can control is your ability to heal, to realign, and get back to self so that we can be the best us that we can be for our loved ones. And as long as we continue that process, we can reap the rewards and see the benefits. And so that was my final trait for today. And I'm hoping that just a little bit of touching on these individual traits gave some insight on areas that you can work on within yourself to be the best you that you can be. And that's it, Tracy. I'm handing it back over to you. Thank you all for listening.
All right. Wow. Thank you so much, Chatika, for that. You're so amazing. Thank you so much for that part two of who is the matriarch and the roles of the matriarch that you expounded on so perfectly. So we appreciate you so much. And all right, the floor is now open for discussion. If anyone has any questions, comments, or anything you'd like to share, the floor is yours. You can unmute your microphone on your computer. You can also press *6 to unmute your phone. And again, you can type any questions in the YouTube live chat as well. So if there's anyone that would like to share or have any questions or comments, please do.
I think our guest had a comment or question earlier.
Yes, she had typed yes, Ashe in the chat. Yes, and we
Okay.
definitely thank you for joining us, Lauren. And if you did have anything you'd like to add, you definitely can. The floor is yours. And then I had wanted to, oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. You're perfect. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I had actually wanted to add this last week. I think we did run out of time, but just my 2 cents on the, as far as the matriarch, the roles. And I was just saying, when most people think of the matriarch, I know, Shashika, you actually spoke on this last week also, so just confirmation. When most people think of matriarch, they think of a mother. And we know the adage, any woman can have a baby, but that doesn't make her a mother. And on the flip side of that, I feel a woman may never physically give birth to a child, and she could be the best mother ever. So when I think of the matriarch, I think of someone who is loving, caring, compassionate, supportive, and leads by example. She is wise and not afraid to share her wisdom and experiences with others. You know, a matriarch doesn't just say nice words. Her actions back up and support, what she espouses. And there was an older woman, I think she's in her close to 70, and she said that she loved me and cared about me. This is a personal experience, and this was shortly after she lied on me, she backstabbed me, she caused so much chaos within our tribal family. And when she said she loved me, I told her love is an action. And she smacked her lips and rolled her eyes and said, "Okay, Tracy." But it's like the saying goes, what you do speaks so loudly that what you say I cannot hear. So I feel a matriarch can be younger person, they can be older. As we've seen, just being older doesn't make you wise. It may make you more experienced, but it doesn't necessarily make you wise. Being younger doesn't mean that you can't be wise. So I think it just all depends on a person's responsibilities, their experiences, their actions, and most importantly, like Shatika said, their moral character. I think that to me defines also what and who is a matriarch. And I yield. And if there's anyone else that would love to anything to share or questions, comments, the
I
floor
see
is yours.
Sister Lauren has her hand up.
All right, Lauren, please, the floor is yours.
Hello. And I just want to say thank you for the invitation, Shatika. I appreciate it. Just coming in and listening to the attributes of a matriarch, just kind of puts things in perspective for myself since I am a mother. It just hit home so much on, like, sometimes we get off track or we get so lost in our own healing that we then put our own traumas on our children. So just hearing Shatika speak kind of just brought me back and even brought tears to my eyes. So I'm just so thankful that, you put it back in perspective for me. And little tidbits like, yeah, there is no guide on how to be a parent. But having this group and the support, I'm just thankful to be here. So I just want to say thank you.
That's it.
Thank you,
Yay.
Lauren, for coming. Thank you. And this is definitely the purpose is to inspire and uplift, So I'm grateful that you were able to make it. And anytime you're welcome. Every week we're always here.
Yay. And
Thank you.
yes, and we also want to recognize our priestess Nuruddina Yogini, and also this is our tribal family as well as Sister Juliana, excuse me. And so, if you all would have anything you'd like to add, the floor is yours. And so, we definitely thank you for being here.
Sister Anita has her hand raised.
Sister Nita, please, floor is yours.
Yes, I wanted to share something about growing up, about the matriarchs, um, from my perspective of, as a historian and us, being the matriarch of this country, taking care of white women's children, taking care of our own children. And, I was thinking about when I was growing up that, and when we were growing up, as an older sister, I was responsible for my younger siblings. And that's the way it was in our community. We were taught to, if you're older, you've got to be, you've got to watch out for your younger sisters. You got to, take care of them. And if anything happens to them, you got to answer, for whatever's going on. And it was like that throughout the community. And it taught us all about caring for each other. And I knew people in the community who were taking care of their handicapped siblings. If the siblings were handicapped, wherever they went, they were with that sibling, or they were making sure that sibling was taken care of. And I have friends who had were the oldest of 5 or 6, younger siblings, and they were responsible for them. And that taught us to be responsible early on, to care about. And also, I had 4 older brothers, and they were responsible for me in the community. So they could be in the community. If I'm in the community not being ladylike or what I was supposed to be like, they was going to check me, And I learned how to respect, my people, my community, through the interactions with the family and the people in the community. And also, during slavery, we were losing our children. Our children were taken from us, and never to be seen again. And what would happen was that the women who lost their children would become mothers to other children, because that instinct, the matriarch instinct, doesn't die. It has to find something to nurture. And that's really like a deep topic. And thank you for Shatika for sharing that information that you shared. And it just makes you think. It just makes you think, because we go about life sometimes and we don't think about respect for our elders or respect for our younger people, our younger generations that are coming up. And this one is a very good topic that we need to discuss and we need to think about. So thank you, guys.
Ashe.
Ashe, yes.
I was
Thank
trying to
you.
raise my hand and I don't know if it's because I'm the host. I couldn't find it
Oh,
on
no.
my computer. But anyway, I've already taken the floor, haven't I? Anyway, thank you. Yes, thank you, Shatika, for your presentation as far as the mother as the matriarch, and Sister Anita, for your comments, Sister Lauren. It's interesting because what she shared, and I'm so glad that you shared that, Sister Lauren, because that lets us know, that's confirmation for us. I think Shatika mentioned that what we're here for, to reach out to each other. Okay, we all have experiences and different types of experiences, some that are similar. And Sister Anita, she's our elder matriarch of our group, but she has had she's been through so many experiences and so many things. And when she speaks, it just reminds me, because I'm not chronologically the age that she is, but we're up in there in a similar age group. So I remember some of the things she's talking about, and I was the oldest of my family. Okay, there were 3 of us, but we were only my brother's 10 months younger than me, my sister 3 years younger than me. But for some reason, I thought I was much older than they were, because my mother used to say I acted like I was their mother because I felt a responsibility for them. And a lot of times the older ones do, just the nature of the fact that here you are, and then the others are born and coming after you. And a lot of times they're like, oh, see, the baby's your baby, And so you feel that motherly instinct. I'm not sure about the men. I'll have to let them speak for themselves when they're boys. But as far as for me, I always felt like I had to take care of them, and at the same time, I always wished that I had an older sister and older brother. Okay, but the replacement of that, because we always talk about it takes 2 children to have a child, but it takes an entire village to raise a adjusted child. And so that's why we have, like, it takes a crystal village, things that we're doing. I grew up in a household where there were my mother was 17 years older than me, and so I had my youngest uncle was only 3 years older than me, and his brother was 7 years older than me, and then the aunt 10 years older, and the other aunt about 15 years older. So, and then I was the first grandchild, so I was a pass around pack to all the grandparents and what have you. So I felt like I was loved and cared for. I had a good support around me during that time. So, and we have to look at where some of the other younger people who are coming up, do they have that today? Do they have that support? And and a lot of times, and I think I think it was Tracy, whoever, somebody touched on that. We have to remember that just because that child is not in your household, okay, you should feel a responsibility. You should feel something. When you see, just something in you. You don't have to take over and run over and all these type of things, but you should have some care and love for, first take care of your own. But when you get to a point where you're like my age and those that maybe even 20 years younger, and you've raised your children, you should have something in you that says, well, I care about them and I want to help them. And that's what Shatika's message, what she's saying, trying to reach out to the mothers that are going through the things that she went through. Okay. Anita saying the same thing. Okay. Tracy doesn't have any children, but I think she would make a great mother. Okay. I'm kind of biased, but I think that she would make a great parent. She has love and a care for others. And so that's what we have to do for each other. And too often, I'm going to be quiet because I get to talk too long sometimes. And it's just, but sometimes there's a lot of jealousy and envy among our people, and especially our women, and we need to get beyond that. And I don't know if that's ego or jealousy, fear, whatever those things are. We're going to heal as a people. And throughout these podcasts, and Shatika bringing this message, other messages that are coming for other topics, we're going to heal, and we're going to heal together. And that's all I have to say.
Beautiful.
Ashe.
Thank you so much. Yes, we are. Definitely. Definitely. All right. Is there anyone else out there that would have anything you'd like to share? Any questions, any comments, anything at all you'd like to say? Please do.
Don't be shy. Let's see. We have a guest ending in 940. I'm going to just start picking on
That's
ending in 9. I am.
That's
speaking in
Sister
940. You don't have to, but if you want
Sister
to,
Janaya.
I'm acknowledging
Yeah.
the people that I see.
Yeah, that's Sister
940.
Janaya.
Do you have any comments or questions?
Welcome, Sister Janaya.
Yes, welcome.
If she has no comments or questions, I'm going to move on to the next person. Sister,
Yes,
you.
greetings.
Oh, okay.
Greetings.
Greetings.
Greetings. Apology for coming on late. I had
Right on
chores
time.
to do. And I only caught the end of what you were saying. And so I don't really have a comment right now because my perspective on life is quite different from a lot of people that I interact with. So in that case, I guess I don't have much to say.
That's what we want. We want all viewpoints. It doesn't matter. You don't have to have the same viewpoint as anybody else, and you don't have
Yeah.
what we want.
Sister Denaya, the floor is just open. If you have any wisdom you could share in mothering and matriarchhood from your
That's right.
aspect, any experiences that may be inspiring, the floor is open for everyone to have the opportunity just to share and ask any questions or play something on our hearts to ponder. And that's all we asking. So it's just all, like I said, in regards to matriarchhood, if there's anything you have any perspectives on.
Okay.
Sister Janaya, we love your mind.
Yeah.
We love your viewpoints. So we definitely love to hear from you.
Ashe,
well,
I'm looking forward.
What?
I said, I'm looking forward to your perspective. I love to hear your perspectives.
Oh my goodness.
Okay. Well, while she's thinking,
I grew up. Let me
Okay.
Let me explain my perspective. The reason why I
Just share your
did want to share.
experience, Sister Janaya. You don't have to qualify it. You don't have to explain. Just share. You said when you were growing up. That's there. Go from there.
Well,
That's what I want to hear.
this is how I'm qualifying it,
Oh,
to
okay.
explain how I grew up and why my perspective may be different from a lot of other people.
Okay.
I never had support. I grew up in a family with my mother had 9 children. And I never felt, I'm going to say, left out. I always felt, I felt comfortable, in other words. It is difficult to explain. I always felt that even though my mom didn't, the way she raised us, because we got spankings, or say beatings whenever we did anything wrong. That's the only part that I really didn't appreciate growing up. But it helped me to learn how to be on my own and learn how to stand up for myself as opposed to looking for somebody to support me. And so I've pretty much been that way all my life. So I'm comfortable. I feel like when someone is really wanting, I would say, someone to interact with or support them in their lives, and they reach out to me, of course, I'm going to do what I can. But as far as reaching out to them, I don't do that. I'm trying to myself not to, how do you say, engage in someone else's affair unless they ask me, because it has to be their desire to interact as opposed to me wanting to. It's like I feel like I'm trying to force someone to do something that they are not ready to do. And so that's the reason why I don't like to offer help, allow them to come to me if they really need the help. I was going to give you an example, but right now it's not coming to mind. I think what you're doing is great, to have a space where people can come and express themselves. So this is like when the more people that come on and get an understanding of our purpose as Crystal Village to help build a community together, letting them know that we have services to provide to help them in their own lives. And this is one of the things that I wanted to share, I guess, I think it's the members meetings that you have, is to share the type of services that we will provide, which be to help people in their own lives as far as handling their affairs and situations, their own, I guess, learning how to appreciate themselves as opposed to doing things for someone else to appreciate the one person or the entity. I think that it's more important to work towards helping people to appreciate who they are as opposed to looking for somebody else to appreciate them before they can appreciate themselves. Love thyself before you can love anyone else. Because if you haven't learned, when people have not learned how to love themselves, they don't have the love in order to love someone else. They can say it with words, but their actions speak louder than words. So that's my view, and that's my perspective. And
thank you, Sister Janiyah. And I have a comment. My comment is that your perspective is really not that much different than what we've been talking about. Okay. Yes. When we're talking about being there as a support, it doesn't necessarily mean that we're pushing ourselves out on people, giving them, because when the teacher is ready, the teacher will appear. So when children are young, when they're little kids, okay, there's always somebody. It may not be their parent. their direct parent, but there's somebody there that had to help them in some type of way, whether that person was in the flesh person, whether that person was like what I had to experience later in life is in the form of books, because an author who wrote a book, and the one I read called My Mother, Myself, it helped me to explain, to understand a lot of things that I've gone through and understand my mother and the dynamics and her mother. And there's a lot of different things. I read books. I read all the time. I was reading since I was 4 years old. When I discovered the library, I thought I was in seventh heaven. Okay. So it was, and I used to catch the bus from, I lived in Compton, California. I caught the bus all the way down to the library all the time. And I read different genres. I went from one to the other. But I read and experienced, and I went through a phase where it was more so the psychological and everything as far as healing myself. I read a book called I'm Okay, You're Okay. Okay. So there's a lot of different things out there, different ways, and it takes different people, you're saying, to heal themselves. And so also, what we're talking about too is that there are people out there that for whatever reason, and it might be this generation here, because you have to remember this generation is different from ours too, in a sense that they're subjected to so much social media today. There's bombarded with so much information, a lot of things, and so there's a lot of confusion out there, and a lot of them, like they said, it may not have the parents in the home, and if you have babies raising babies, I mean, and and so now you have a grandmother. But there's things that she herself didn't know and aware, and it's a system that we have that's in place. And so that's what we're combating, we're coming against. And anybody that comes on this call, anybody that we reach out to, they're hearing the voice. And so there's a scripture that says, my sheep hear my voice and know me and answer. And so basically we're crying out in the wilderness, and there's people who feel that need, and they're going to come on the call. They're going to express their need, their thoughts, their feelings, emotions, and like you said, you're glad we have this platform and we have the space for them to be able to do that, the freedom for them to be able to express that. So it's not enabling anybody. We're not doing that. Okay. But we're saying that the help and support does not have to be financially. We're saying the help and support is just, if for example, if somebody needs help, sometimes they may not specifically tell you, I'm hurting inside, but you,
Right.
in your spirit, and you do, and you stretch out your hands and you stretch out your arms, and just that loving, unconditional love to them. It's up to them. They have to move their feet to come to you and get the hug and get the love that they need. Okay. So we're not forcing anything. This is what we're doing. We're stretching out our arms, and we say, those that have a need, those that this is a place you can be free to express. In the coming episodes, I put everything in my book. So my life is really an open book, meaning that there's nothing about me that's not out there already. But you're going to hear me express and say a lot of things. Okay. And I'm not going to always say things that people want to hear. That's just how it is, the nature of who I am. But there are different people with different views, and I appreciate the person that you are. I appreciate your viewpoints on all this, because you've helped me in so many ways. And you talk about being a support, Sister Janiyah. Throughout the time that I've known you, you've helped me with things as far as being a support to me, just by the things you're saying. You've said, and I start thinking about those things, and you've been there. And so that's all I'm getting at. Is most of your viewpoint is really not that much different from. I know you think that in some ways it is, but you're right on time with us as far as here with us.
Well, okay, if you don't mind, I'm going to clarify the reason why I said what I said. I feel like it's more personal for me when I feel like I don't like to feel obligated to come on to a meeting. And so I feel like you put an obligation on me that I'm not quite ready for to be on. on a regular basis. Maybe I can come on maybe once in a while. But
If you're
I
not
don't
the
know how
speaker,
often are you gonna.
you don't have to come on every time. You're under no obligation.
Okay.
Yeah, no obligation.
Okay. Well, who's the speaker this time?
Sister Shatika, she spoke last week and she spoke this week, and she's going to speak again next week. And then I think Sister Carmela, and then I'm going to do the whole month of May.
Whole month of May. So
yeah.
you're the host. Each one is like the host or hosting.
I'm going to do a presentation, and the way that we have it set up is the speaker does 10 minutes, and then there's discussion. Was it at 20, 25 minutes, and then the wrap up, at the end. So yeah.
So is this like a podcast? Is that what it's called?
Like a podcast?
This is the What Needs to Be Done Today podcast. Exactly. Exactly that.
Oh, okay. Okay. It is a podcast. I wasn't sure. See, that's what I'm trying.
Oh, okay.
I guess that's really why clarifying what type of meeting this is, and
we're live on YouTube too, so everybody's hearing everything you say.
Really, right now?
Right now.
They heard everything.
Really?
See, you didn't come early, so you didn't know that.
Well, hello, everyone that's listening to me. Wow.
Oh.
Okay. All right. I appreciate you guys bringing me on. This is making me laugh, but
we appreciate you too.
Yes. Well, I was gonna say,
okay.
if Sister if Priestess or Sister Juliana has any comments, anything they wanted to share.
Sister Juliana says she's definitely grateful to be here. Her internet is going in and out, but I'll definitely feel the floor if she is on. And if Priestess would like to speak also. And if not, then we'll go ahead and yield to Sister Shatika. She said she's going to do our closing for today. Sister Shatika, if you're ready.
Yes, ma'am. I'm ready. First and foremost, abundantly grateful. Thank you, Priestess. You are inspiration to us, whether you know it or not.
Yes.
Together we can do great things. I believe in every one of you all. I know every one of you all. I know you all's capacity, and together, like I said, we can do great things. I just wanted to say that there's a process in healing, and it doesn't happen overnight. And sometimes we have to actually be willing enough to admit that we hurt. If you can't admit that you're hurt, if you can't admit that there are some things you're still carrying, you can never really heal those things out. And I'm seeing that a lot, even in my own personal relationships, where people want to facade as if they have everything together. And we don't have to. We don't. That's what this intention is, to create a space where we can be authentically ourselves, whether it's hurt, whether it's scarred, whether it's abused, whether it's abandoned, whatever, and have that capacity to be healed. I think your mother said it perfectly. Our arms are open. This is a stretching out of the arms from the great mother, not just ourselves. This is a calling in the spirit from the great mother. And it's basically just opportunity for our children, and which is our sisters and brothers, even our sisters and brothers, our children and our loved ones, to rest in our bosom. And that is how we heal. And we have a lot to heal. And we have to be realistic of that. We have so many traumas that have been passed through our genetics, and we spoke on this, that it takes 7 years to heal trauma. 7 generations, I'm sorry, not 7 years, 7 generations to heal trauma out of a bloodline. And so that's the objective, to create that process. It's already been happening behind the scenes, and now we're being called to come into the front work and shift some dynamics, because everything that we're suffering from when it comes to the economic system, when it comes to the nation, when it comes to our history in this land, is because of the stripping away of the love of ourselves. And it started with the mother. The woman watched the man be stripped in front of, split in between two horses and whipped, and the breaking of the emotional barrier for her, where we created docile children, and we would be more protecting and sheltering instead of encouraging them to have their true potential, to experience their true potential, to have their highest spiritual capacity. And we're not doing it anymore. We're breaking those chains. We're at that place now where we want our children to be them authentically. We're not bowing, we're not bending, we're not bowing. And that's ultimately, to me, where we're going. We're trying to tear out things that have been poured into us that are not our forefathers' ways. And it's happening slowly but surely, but we have to have the faith and the belief to continue through and not allow ourselves to become so dampened because of the traumas that come and go. It's a process of life. The more we experience this realm, we learn that this is a school of thought, that this is a school of mastery, and that there will always be challenges, but how will we face them? And so right now we're taking that stand to say we will face them together. Um, First and foremost, we want to give praise to our ancestors, those that are in the room with us, and those that are supporting us on our daily journeys. We're grateful for the Most High and the capacity to know the Most High and live and be that spirit that it embodies. We ask that we're covered 24/7 as we leave this place, and that we're allowed to reconjoin next week with renewed spirits and renewed minds. And we know that all things are capable through us. There is nothing formed against us that can prosper. And that's it. I hope that everybody has a grand week, and I appreciate everybody for showing up, and it's not for anybody individually. This is for us as a whole, and I hope that's something that's understood throughout this time frame. Thank you everyone for coming and joining us. And you can always watch back if you missed the speech session. And again, thank you. Thank you.
Abundantly grateful.
And
Ashe.
it will be, the recording will be available
Okay.
for those who wish to get a copy of the podcast. You can go to our MAAT, American Aboriginal Tribal Nation YouTube channel, and you can listen to it later, and you can share the video with others and put the word out for others too, that we're doing this and that we're here. And we greatly appreciate that. Ashe.
All right, Ashe. All right, peace and love, everyone.